Maybe this message has found you at the perfect moment, not because of luck, but because your soul has been quietly whispering a question you couldn't quite name. Am I truly assuming a new reality, or am I just wishing for one? There's a sacred difference. One transforms you from the inside out. The other keeps you circling the same longing disguised as hope. Most people, perhaps even you, believe they are manifesting. They visualize, they affirm, they script, but deep down, they are still waiting, still trying, still reaching for what they believe is not yet here. Neville Goddard spoke of this illusion with piercing clarity. It is not what you want that you attract. You attract what you assume to be true. This is where most get it wrong. Desire is lack. Assumption is identity. Desire keeps you in pursuit. Assumption anchors you in presence, in the frequency where the manifestation already exists. And here's the paradox that silently blocks so many seekers. The more you want something, the more you reinforce its absence. You think you're using the law of assumption, but in truth you may be unknowingly feeding the law of resistance. So let's pause, let's breathe into this mystery, because what you're about to remember can realign everything. In the next few minutes, we'll explore 5 sacred errors, not to shame you, but to lovingly awaken you, to help you inhabit the truth your soul already knows, not just with your mind, but with your being. You're not here to chase a new reality. You're here to remember you already live in it, if only you choose to dwell there. Now, let's begin the return home. Imagine this. You spend months building the house of your dreams. Every detail chosen with care, the colors, the light, the silence between the walls, and yet, each night, you return to sleep on the old couch at a friend's place. The house is there, but you don't live in it. This is how most people approach manifestation. They construct the perfect scene in their mind, the relationship, the abundance, the healed version of themselves. They visualize, write it down, say the words, but emotionally, energetically, they are still living in lack, still watching from the outside, as if peeking through the window of a life they haven't truly claimed. Neville Goddard didn't teach us to observe our desires. He taught us to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, to move in, to dwell in it, not just as a concept, but as a new home for our consciousness. It is not what you want that you attract. You attract what you assume to be true. Here lies the sacred shift. You don't manifest what you build in your mind. You manifest what you emotionally inhabit. And this is where many fall into the trap. They create the scene, but remain detached observers. They see themselves with the thing they desire, but they still feel like the person who doesn't have it. This is not assumption. This is longing in disguise. So how do you begin to live in your new reality? Through a sacred practice Neville often called the state akin to sleep. Each night as you lie in bed, allow yourself to feel the subtle, soft reality of your desire already fulfilled. Not as a movie playing in front of you, but as a silent knowing within you. Breathe in as if you've already become. Let your last thought before sleep be one of embodiment, not effort. Say quietly within, "This is who I am now. I no longer visit this feeling. I dwell in it." Let this become your invisible sanctuary. Because the universe does not respond to your words, it responds to the frequency you consistently occupy. When you stop trying to make it happen and start living as if it already has, everything around you quietly begins to shift. Not by force, but by resonance. Sometimes the loudest doubt isn't the one you hear. It's the quiet hum beneath your affirmations, the invisible tension behind your visualizations, the subtle panic hidden inside the words, "It's already mine." Because if it truly was, why are you still checking your phone every hour looking for proof? Why do you still ask, "How will it happen?" This is not assumption. This is spiritual surveillance. You are trying to convince the mind when assumption lives in the body, in the state, not the sentence. Psychology calls this the Galatea effect. The belief you hold about yourself silently shapes your outcomes, not your wishes, not your plans, but the inner image you consistently nourish. Or neglect, you say, I am abundant, but inside you scan your reality for evidence that you're still not. This is the loop. You try to feel it real, but the emotional field is filled with fear, waiting, watching, and the law responds not to your hope, but to your hidden frequency. Here's the gentle truth. If you're constantly checking if it's working, you've left the state. You've abandoned the assumption. So how do we return? Through what I call the point of return, a sacred, simple anchor, a feeling, an image, a breath that brings you back to the end, to the version of you who already arrived. It could be a moment in your mind, like holding the keys to your new home, or a sentence that grounds your energy, like, I don't need proof, I am the proof. When you feel doubt creeping in, you don't argue with it. You simply return. Return to the state. Return to the you who isn't hoping, but being. Let your assumption be quiet. Let it be still. Let it be sacred. Like a candle that doesn't need to prove its flame. There's a misunderstanding in the spiritual world that assuming means doing nothing. That if you just know, the universe will take care of everything while you sit back and wait for signs. But the truth is, assumption is not passive. It is a frequency that naturally births action. You don't take action to make something happen. You take action because something within you has already shifted. It's not forced. It's congruent. You brush your hair differently. You walk into a room with unexplainable grace. You make a bold move, see, not because you should, but because your inner self has already said, this is who I am now. There was a woman who wanted to change careers, but instead of waiting for the perfect opportunity, she began waking up as if she were already hired. She changed how she dressed. She rewrote her resume from the energy of already being chosen. She even updated her calendar to include meetings that hadn't yet been scheduled. Weeks later, she received a call, an offer, not by magic, but by resonance, because the universe doesn't deliver based on fantasy. It mirrors embodiment. And your brain? It needs evidence, tiny micro-signals that say, this new self is real. This is where neuroscience and spirit intertwine. The more you behave like the person you've assumed, the more your nervous system normalizes that version of reality. So try this mini challenge. Each day, ask yourself, what is one small action I would take if I fully believed I already was? Then do it, not to get there, but because you are there. Even if no one else sees it yet, even if your old life still echoes in your reality. Let your actions arise from your identity, not your insecurity. Because true assumption is not about control, it's about congruence. You no longer chase the life you desire, you act from the life you've already chosen to live. Sometimes what blocks your assumption was never yours to begin with. It's not your vision that's weak. It's the inherited programming whispering beneath it. The voice that says, success comes with guilt. People like me don't get to have that. Better stay small. It's safer that way. These aren't conscious thoughts, they are ancestral echoes, beliefs passed down through silence, through patterns, through survival. You want to assume abundance, but you were raised by those who feared wealth. You want to embody love, but your nervous system memorized abandonment before you could speak. This is the resistance that doesn't scream, it lingers. It's what Neville never ignored. He knew you must replace the old assumption, not with words, but with identity. And to do that, you must first see it. Let's begin with an inner diagnostic, inspired by Carl Jung. Ask yourself gently, what do I believe would change about how others see me if I fully embodied this new version? What part of me feels unsafe if this desire comes true? Whose voice am I still obeying? Even if they're no longer present? These questions are not easy, but they open the door to your liberation. Because once you name the shadow, you can offer it light. Now, let's transmute. Ritual practice. The rewriting of the self. Take a piece of paper. Write down, in the first person, the identity you've unknowingly assumed. I am someone who expects disappointment. I am someone who fears being seen. I am someone who doubts it will last. Read it aloud, feel the weight, then burn it. Tear it, return it to the earth. On a fresh page, write your chosen identity. I am someone who receives with ease. I am someone who lives as if it's already true. I am someone who no longer carries what was never mine. Let this become your new inner atmosphere. Let it vibrate within you, even in silence, because once you replace assumption at the root, the fruit will follow without force. There's a moment when practice becomes panic, when you say the affirmation not from peace, but from pressure. You repeat and repeat and repeat, not because you're saturated in belief, but because you're afraid it's still not working. This is where the law quietly slips out of alignment, because assumption is not obsession. It's not repetition for control. It's resonance that holds itself steady, even in silence. Neville said it beautifully. Saturate your mind, not your emotions. When you try to force the feeling, when your meditations become tense, when visualizations turn into strained effort, you are no longer in the state of the wish fulfilled. You're in the state of fear disguised as faith. So how do we return to sacred practice without the anxious grip? Through what I call the threefold presence, a gentle rhythm done 3 times a day, not to manifest, but to inhabit. 3 times a day, morning, midday, before sleep. Sit or stand still. Breathe slowly through the nose into your belly. Feel one scene that represents your chosen identity. Not a movie, not a goal. Just a simple moment where it already is. A hug, a sunrise in your new home, a laugh that comes from peace. Stay there for 1 minute, not to make it happen, but to remember who you are. This is not a performance. This is a homecoming. The law of assumption doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to purity, to the clean, quiet conviction that says, this is my life now. I no longer ask how. I simply am. If you remember nothing else from today, let it be this. You do not manifest what you desire. You manifest what you live as silently true. Desire is the spark, but assumption is the fire that warms the room. You don't need to keep chasing, proving, repeating. You need to inhabit. Let your life become a quiet yes. A yes that doesn't shout, that doesn't explain itself, that simply walks as if the prayer was already answered. Because when you shift your identity, not just in thought, but in vibration, reality follows, not out of obligation, but because you've become a match. So, let's close with a simple reflection. If reality is neutral, if life is only reflecting what you assume to be true, what would you choose to embody today? And if that future version of you, the one who is already healed, aligned, abundant, could speak to you now, what would they say? Maybe something like this. Stop running after what's already yours. Just remember and return home. Tonight, before sleep, take your phone, open a voice memo and speak as if you already are. Say what you see. Say how you feel. Speak like someone who has arrived. Then listen to this recording each night before sleep for the next 7 days. Let it rewire your field. Let it soften your mind. Let it bring you home to the state again and again and again. If this message stirred something in you, let it ripple. Like, comment with the phrase, I return to the state of the wish fulfilled. And share this with someone who may need to hear it, because not everyone is ready for this frequency. But maybe you are. Maybe this was never just a video, maybe it was a mirror, and maybe now you remember.